spill.
The auto DJ sounds like porn.
Someone being murdered in a pornographic way?
Yeah, CJLO is expanding into snuff porn.
Yeah, this is like a snuff film. We're not on. Our mics aren't on.
And with that delightful theme song, we are on the air.
Is that what we're calling a song these days?
It is what we're calling a song these days. That's our song, our Canadian content.
Oh, Michael, I'm so glad you played our song.
Oh dear. We're back. It is Sunday, March 17th, and we did miss a week last week. Our first time missing a week in about 3 months.
Wow.
Because I was that sick.
Wow. Wow.
I was definitely not well enough to make it into the office, as it were. So here we are.
I don't know, retching noises might have been an interesting change of pace.
It would have been an awful lot of coughing. That's what it would have been.
There's nothing more entertaining on the radio than coughing.
Yeah, well, it's good when you have a cough button. We do not have a cough button here, so we are unfortunately stuck with just leaning way out of mic, I guess is what we'd have to do. So let's see. It's
St. Patrick's Day. So we're doing a rerun of our show of favorite Irish movies, right?
Leprechaun.
Why did we even show up? We could have just
Leprechauns in
rerun last year's episode.
That sounds about right.
Could have had another sick day.
Oh dear God! If only.
Or my other favorite, Leprechaun in the Hood.
Leprechaun in the
So
Hood?
many good Leprechaun movies.
I prefer
really.
Leprechaun in Space.
Leprechaun in Space, actually, legitimately, I enjoy a lot.
Did he meet Jason in space?
You'd think.
You know a series has run its course when it's in space.
Leprechaun in Space has some really
I'm looking at you,
fun
James Bond.
practical effects in it.
I may be mistaken, but I do believe there is a Leprechaun in the Hood 2.
There is a Leprechaun in the Hood, too. Back to the Hood.
The good news is they recently rebooted the Leprechaun series.
Oh, have they?
Yes.
Oh my God, how did I not know about this?
Yeah.
My favorite series of all time has been rebooted.
As the new series, which came out last year, will let you know it's a more serious take on the Leprechaun saga, but still with non-stop Leprechaun
Leprechaun
puns.
Gets the Christopher Nolan treatment? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, complete with a hugely inflated budget.
Nice.
Certainly.
Well, that pot of gold's got to go somewhere.
The Dark Leprechaun Rises.
Oh, these are such terrible jokes.
I did do a full marathon a few St. Patrick's Day days ago. I did a full marathon of every Leprechaun movie for the whole entire day.
Time well spent.
While drinking, and I think I broke my brain forever. I've never been the same since.
I completely believe that.
Yeah.
That much Warwick Davis is definitely...
by the time we got to Leprechaun in Space, I was really thoroughly enjoying the movies, which is a sure sign of mental illness at advanced stages.
But by that time you were drinking antifreeze.
It's the only way to enjoy those movies.
Oh dear. So, we're not going anywhere near St. Paddy's Day today. What we're going to do is, with the release of Captain Marvel, a pleasantly mediocre Marvel film with a female lead, we're going to talk about genre movies with female leads that we liked more.
Yay!
Which is most of them. No,
I can hardly think of one that I didn't like more.
I mean, here's the thing about Captain Marvel. It's fine.
Yeah.
I've got nothing bad to say about it, really.
I'm seeing it tonight, so I have nothing to say about it.
It's fine.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
It's not the event it's been billed as. It's a filler one.
It's better than a filler, but it's real hard for me to find the right word that fits past the word filler.
It feels like a bookmark between the two Avengers films.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but they're trying to tell you, oh, it's such a first because we've never had a female superhero action. Well, Wonder Woman and Elektra and Catwoman and Supergirl, but oh, but it's the first female-led superhero movie in this particular universe.
Yes.
Oh, good.
That really is the only conversation.
Yes. But they would have you believe otherwise, that this is some sort of momentous occasion.
Mm-hmm. Well,
when it's
kind of
another one of those.
To be honest, but momentous for all the wrong reasons, which is that, well, I don't think it's particularly impressive to have one female-led superhero movie out of your 800,000 superhero movies that you're
So your argument is we shouldn't have made this movie.
No, my argument is...
Should have just kept going with only men films and we could keep
complaining
about
my argument is it's not that impressive to finally have one female-led film after 13,000 movies featuring
20
male protagonists.
Hey, the steroid
with the
industry
same
is...
exact personality.
Black Panther will take issue with that for you saying that, ma'am. So... But, yeah, they can't even boast that this is the first Marvel film with a female superhero lead because we had Elektra. Not part of this. But it's not part of this particular branch of the universe. Oh God.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can distinguish MCU from other Marvel movies,
as
we have done. I think we did a 3-episode arc on that on every Marvel movie.
I think it was a 50-episode arc.
I think every episode.
It certainly felt like it.
I like how epic you guys remember that being. I think we did 3 or 4 episodes. It was a lot, but...
We did as many episodes on Marvel movies as there has been Stan Lee cameos in Marvel movies.
Oh, so infinite?
Yes. and will survive us all. Just like Stan Lee's cameos will survive him.
Well, I heard a rumor that there's only 2 or 3 left, and then that kind of flies in the face of the other thing I heard, which was that 3 years ago, I think it was James Gunn, shot a dozen of them. He shot a dozen.
Yeah, but eventually they'll run out, and then we'll get Uncanny Valley Stan Lee. So he could be Rogue One Peter Cushing.
I disagree. I don't even remember if I've said this on the air before, but I've certainly said it elsewhere before. In my opinion, Stan Lee should now become the new Colonel Sanders. Every couple of years we get a new actor to come in. We cycle through them playing Stan Lee, like in the Stan Lee wig with the Stan Lee glasses and bad mustache.
I want Gilbert Godfrey.
And that is my first choice.
Yeah. Excelsior!
That sounds great.
So what are we talking about today?
We forgot.
We're talking about kick-ass women in film, and if you need a little inspiration... Here's a list for you.
Don't worry, I know kick-ass women in film.
And yet.
And yet.
Well, we're trying to avoid the obvious ones, the ones
and yet you have The Bride and Ellen Ripley on this list.
Yeah, but mostly to mention and then move past.
And AON Hit Girl. This is just a list of the top things that people would think of.
No, there's plenty in there that are not. At any rate. What I want to avoid is a 45-minute conversation about Sarah Connor and Ellen Ripley.
Yeah.
That's my point.
I think that ground has been well trod.
Exactly.
Much as I love Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor.
I mean, no character has ever had a more fitting ending. Ellen Ripley making out with Pumpkinhead right before she burst into flames, or whatever the hell it was that happened to her at the end of Alien Resurrection.
This sucks.
Yes, that's a terrible character. These are the people that are on the list to not talk about. But everybody else on there is...
No, the point being that when you complain there are no female-led genre action movies, there's actually an embarrassment of riches out there.
Uh-huh.
Especially if you scratch below the surface and get beyond the obvious, the first couple Terminator films and the Aliens films and the this films and the that films.
Okay.
And we will get to some of our favorites as we dig a little deep.
Well... Why don't you give us one, Shane? You sound like you're on a roll. Let's hear one.
Well, I'm gonna pull my film historian card on you, and say that the phenomenon of female action heroes is rather older than you might think. And the example I'm particularly fond of is a mere 103 years old today. Well, not today, but this year. And it is W.D. Griffith's Intolerance. Intolerance is a film told in 4 different stages, in 4 different periods, but the main thrust of the narrative takes place in ancient Babylonia and features an action heroine referred to only as Mountain Girl. And I was stunned when I finally got around to seeing this movie because not only does she kick ass and not only does she get in big battles and plucks arrows and all sorts of people, but every time you figure it's going to do this typical thing where, okay, she's the wild outsider and she's fighting for the Babylonians, but, she's just waiting for the right guy to tame her and bring her into the fold with love. That never happens. It keeps leading towards it, and then it keeps yanking that out of your grasp and saying, no, she's strong, independent, and she ain't being tamed by no one. And it is so refreshing and shockingly modern for a 103-year-old film. But that whole era of silent film, until sound came in and sort of nailed everyone down with big sound equipment, and increasingly the action film sort of diminished in favor of more talkative narratives. There were plenty of great female leads. Certainly, Mary Pickford got in her fair share of adventures. I would also point you towards the work of Nell Shipman, who did a series of wilderness adventure films, and even edging into the 1930s, there was, of course, Leni Riefenstahl's Mountain Adventures, although we're not allowed to like her anymore because she ended up working for the Nazis.
Hey, a gig is a gig, baby.
A gig's a... Well, that was exactly her response. A gig's a gig.
Well...
Here's Tess to school us. Tell us all about why we're wrong, Tess.
I don't think this episode should become a debate on, separating the art from the artist, but I will say I don't think that a gig is just a gig when you're making Nazi propaganda films.
Well, it's the excuse ultimately sprung her from prison after the war, and no one hanged her, so
So the court of public opinion has spoken.
That woman was nigh indestructible. In her 90s, she was in a major plane crash and walked away from it.
Yeah, she made it past 100.
She's quite a character.
Yes, in fact, if you want to know more about Leni Riefenstahl, I highly recommend the documentary, The Wonderful, Horrible Life of Leni Riefenstahl.
I wish they'd make a cool, modern American biopic of her starring, Hilary Swank or something. That should be a role that
They've talked about it time and again, and they still can't get over that hump of everyone thinks she's a Nazi.
Well, that's what the film will be for. To say, it's just a money gig, come on. Very forgivable, right?
Hitler was a great boss right up until the war started.
Did she work directly for him?
Pretty much.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
100%.
Okay, I'm out. I can't even jokingly go with it if she loses.
Well, it's not like he had invaded Czechoslovakia yet.
Well, speaking of Mountain Girls, I don't know if you recall, but they actually reused that character in The Lady Killers by the Coen brothers. They literally have a character named Mountain Girl, who I now realize is a direct reference.
Oh, it's a reference? Okay. I've mostly banned that remake of The Lady Killers from my mind, even though it's a Coen Brothers film.
Even though it's one of their better films.
I completely disagree there.
Have you seen it more than once?
I have seen it the one time and was a little bit disgusted.
15 years ago.
I'm
a fan of the original Ealing comedy, and I don't think the Coens should involve themselves in remakes.
I
with
agree.
How many exceptions do you have to that rule?
I will defend True Grit as a different adaptation of the book.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think Lady Killers is a different adaptation of the film as well, and I agree that.
In other words, a remake.
Yes.
Wow, you guys are splitting the tiniest hairs right now.
I think I agree that Lady Killers is an underrated film. I think it's unfairly maligned.
I had no idea we'd be on the same side of this.
We were rarely, if ever, on the same side, but I actually really love Lady Killers. It's super weird, but I enjoy it a lot.
All right, well, let's see if we can get on the same side of these ads I'm about to play. There we go.
You've seen him on tour with Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie.
That's a nice 30-second dead space.
Now John 5 is stopping by Montreal in support of his 9th solo album,
Every 5 seconds of dead space feels like 30 seconds.
Off air, and for our listeners on your YouTube, I will say, you should revisit that film. It's a tiny masterpiece. Tiny. It's a perfect little poem of weirdness. I have a feeling your entire recollection of that movie is, wow, Marlon Wayans is annoying. Which
there was that.
He's phenomenal in that, playing a super annoying character. Listen to his dialogue. It's so layered. Layered annoying. But, I mean, he's delivering amazingly
What can I say? Tom
weird.
Hanks is no Alec Guinness.
Actually, I disagree. I think it's one of Hank's finest roles.
I agree.
He's
I don't really
so
like Tom
good
Hanks,
playing
generally.
the weird Edgar Allan Poe Colonel Sanders.
That and the
But
Preston
you're
Sturges
comparing.
references is for Coens is just, I don't know. It's part of their dark period where it's like, why are you doing remakes in other people's work?
And we're back on CJLO 1690. Our show is called Cinema Smackdown. I don't think I mentioned that at the top of the show, so let's slip it in here.
Yeah, we're smacking each other around quite a bit.
Let's talk about kick-ass genre movie women, which there's a ton of.
Yeah, there are a ton of them.
Yeah.
Every role that Pam Grier ever played.
I'm not a fan of her in.
There's Foxy Brown and Coffee, and I conflate the two because one was originally meant to be a sequel to the other until they decided it was in an era where they decided, sequels are never any good and don't make money, so we're just going to change the character name.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't remember
what. The same character.
Yeah, I can't remember which one's a good one though, because one's good and one's meh.
The one everyone praises is Coffee, and the one everyone dismisses is Foxy Brown, and as far as I'm concerned, that's the wrong order.
Okay.
Foxy Brown is the follow-up attempt to cash in, but it has all the more memorable, interesting scenes.
Yeah, I agree. I much prefer Foxy Brown to
Again.
Coffee. I know,
What's going
I don't know,
on?
I've been replaced by someone else, I think, but...
I'm feeling picked on.
You didn't even say you liked either one of them.
No, I can't remember which one I like.
They are a little interchangeable, except for some of the key moments. At any rate, the one criticism I do have is that I am not even slightly a fan of Jackie Brown.
I love Jackie Brown, so...
It's one of those things where...
We're diverging again, Michael.
It's one of those things where every character moment in that film feels fake, forced, and made up by a white dude in a bathrobe sitting in his living room.
Well, that is accurate, but I think you're doing a sort of like authorial, intent reading of the film rather than just experiencing it.
I really tried to enter that film with no major biases, and I've watched it a couple of times over the years. It's so boring.
Oh, so
it's
incorrect.
Such a boring
I love it.
movie.
I love it.
And it's an entire movie that is based on arriving at a scene that you have to watch 5 or 6 times of people stealing a bag of money, and they just show it over and over, and there's no new information given in every repetition of that scene.
There's absolutely new information given in every iteration of the scene.
There's just no reason for that scene to repeat.
I only remember it as a heist film with a very disinteresting heist.
There you go. Yeah, that's as far as I'm concerned, that's a massively positive review of that movie. I don't know. I feel like that's a crime film for people who haven't seen a lot of crime films and think everything in it is new and unique, whereas I just saw a million things I'd seen done better elsewhere.
It's a 1970s-style crime film for people who thought The Friends of Eddie Coyle was too fast-paced.
Oh, dear God. Now that's a masterpiece.
It is.
That is the movie that Tarantino has based his entire career on. If you watch it scene by scene, he steals something from every 3 minutes of the movie and sticks it in different films. You know, a lot of Reservoir Dogs has bits taken from this.
Gee, Tarantino plagiarizing. I never heard of such a thing.
It's called homage.
Okay.
There is no character...
It's an homage if you don't get caught at it.
There is no character in the book, the movie Jackie Brown is based on, named Jackie Brown. There is, however, a character named Jackie Brown in The Friends of Eddie Coyle. So... Yeah, it's based on a book called Rum Punch. That's what the Tarantino film is based on. Anyway, that's convoluted sounding. But, anyway...
Well, if we're going to move backwards slightly, one of my favorite female characters from a... genre movie, I guess, has whatever definition you want to bring to it. Because really, at the end of the day, it just means a movie, right? Every movie is some kind of genre.
Let's just say we're trying to stay away from things like Meg Ryan and When Harry Met Sally.
Sure.
Yeah, we're not a good example.
Or Steel Magnolias.
Sure. Well, so one of my favorite quote genre movie female characters, if we can backpedal and move back to Coen Brothers, is Marge Gunderson from Fargo, who I think is such an amazing character who happens to be a female character. It's not like a film where it's like, oh, it's a badass female character movie and she's meant to be a badass and look at her kicking people's asses and she's so bad and she's strong female character. She's just like this kind of ordinary woman who has this ordinary job and a very prosaic kind of life, but she's competent at her job.
She solves crimes through morning sickness. So that's her superpower.
Yeah, she's pregnant in the movie, and it's kind of just like, yeah, she's a pregnant woman, and she's still just doing her job competently, and she's a very charming and, like, lovable character, and it's just part of her that she is a woman and that she's pregnant and everything. It's not a
And she is
central focus
fueled
of her
solely
character.
by Arby's.
Yeah, yes, fueled solely by Arby's. Anyway, I love Marge Gunderson. I think she's a great character, so I just wanted to throw her in the ring there.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are even aware of this, but the movie Fargo is actually quite polarizing. Now, people don't have super strong opinions about it, but folks tend to either just outright love that movie or don't care about it. They literally just, they saw it, they didn't think it was bad, but they don't care. I actually fall into that camp of didn't really care about it. I could appreciate parts of it, but it didn't touch me. And then, 20 years later, they did a Fargo television show, which I was really ready to dismiss outright. Mm-hmm. And is the absolute spirit of that movie, and yet, I think it's a masterpiece. Yeah. Nearly every minute of that show, and there's been 3 seasons of, 13 hours each, 10, 13 hours each.
We're back to our normal dynamic here because I absolutely love Fargo the film, and I think it's an absolute every minute of it is a masterpiece. I've seen it 1,000 times.
And you hate the show?
But no, I do love the show as well. And much like you, when I originally started watching the show, I was very ready to be like, this is shit. They're just cashing in on Fargo, which is an amazing film, and it's going to be trash. And then you start watching it, and it absolutely, as you said, it's not a sort of narrative. It's not that closely tied to the film narratively, at least in the first season. But the sort of spirit of the show is very much right on the money. The spirit of the film, and it's amazing. The performances are amazing. The plot is great. It's
the payoffs.
Weird.
The show has a lot of payoffs.
A lot of weird twists and payoffs that you kind of don't really see coming. That really kind of knit things together and make it really interesting and good. So
I mean, just the pilot of the Fargo TV show, the very first hour, is so good that I was won over pretty much forever just by the last 5 minutes of that. How everything came together in that, and the rest of that season is still pretty magnificent. But that first hour is, I prefer the pilot to the Fargo show over the movie. But that's
see, it took me longer to get into it than that. I actually had to take 2 runs at getting into the show because I watched 2 or 3 episodes, found it was a bit of a clone with the yaw stuff. Then I took another stab at it, and then started to hit the plot points that I absolutely loved, and then it won me over completely. So to the point where I've watched the first season twice.
So I want to take the same speech you just made and apply it in 1 year to you having rewatched The Lady Killers. And have you say, I saw it a second time, and suddenly I got it. It was this sweet little perfect film.
I will get right on that.
You do have the popular opinion, though, of it being a movie no one likes.
Yeah, I have real Preston Sturges films that I have not seen, rather than rewatching this Preston Sturges tribute film.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, let's get back to our kick-ass women of various things.
And Fargo, the TV show, also has a kick-ass women character. Multiple kick-ass women characters that are really, really well done. And not
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is great. Mm-hmm. So, to a degree, so is Kirsten Dunst. To a degree, more like eventually, like where her character goes. So she's pretty irritating up until she gets the upper hand. She's pretty irritating.
Yeah.
And the Marge Gunderson clone character in season 1.
I loved her.
She's pretty good in it.
I loved her, yeah. And it's another one of those characters where you're waiting for her to be this kind of like obvious women empowerment of women character, and she's really not. She's just a person that is sort of competent and effective, you know. So it's great. I love it.
All right. Let me see. I should probably jump in. I haven't said anybody's name yet. Who can I bring up that's of note? I'm actually going to start off with the 2 I was hoping to find a place for at some point. We talk a lot about Marvel movies because we talked about the Captain Marvel film. And I wanted to just bring this up. This is like a side mention because it's 2 actresses on a TV show. But it's a Marvel show. It's the 2 lead women on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who are Ming-Na Wen and Chloe Bennett, who play Melinda May and Daisy Johnson. Now, if you want well-written, intelligent, absolute ass-kicking characters, they're there every single week. And these women are fantastic on the show. Now, you're both staring at me blankly because neither of you have ever watched and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is vastly superior to most of the Marvel movies. Not always, but for the most part. It is quite a good show, but especially in the casting.
It's just too overwhelming at this point. It's like a million
episodes. It's too much material.
Yeah, season 1 is great. Season 1 is like if you ever just want to jump in and watch one, just watch season 1. They establish characters really well. There's good arcs. The ending is really satisfying.
I watched the pilot and decided I didn't care enough.
But that's what you say about everything.
Yeah, well. There's, I have had a hard enough time keeping up with all the movies, and then there's every TV show is like, well, there's another 26 hours of your life. Poof, gone. Did you have fun? Well, sort of. I was amused.
You have to run out the clock somehow, all right? How you choose to do it by listening to news all day and all night is different than I choose to do it. But anyway.
I do love, or I have a love-hate relationship, I would say, with the Jessica Jones character who has to, I guess, come up if we're talking about Marvel TV show
I completely agree with you on half of what you said.
You only hate her.
I only hate her.
I'm so shocked.
Beyond hating any character that has ever been presented, ever, because every choice she has ever made on the show has failed.
Yeah, I disagree with you, though.
That is the part that I cannot get over. They make her so ignorant.
I do agree that is the major flaw of the show, is that they take, I would say in every single season, they take, half to 3/4 of the season is solid, and then there's some point where everything could be resolved, but they're like, oh no, wait, we still have a half to a quarter of the season left. Let's just have her make really stupid decisions for the next rest of the show.
I completely agree with you, except it's the entire season and everything she does.
I would love to stop talking about TV shows before we end up on Mary Hartman.
Why don't you tell us about the Kickass action women on that show?
Yeah,
Sounds
yeah.
to me. I could use some Mary Hartman schooling.
Well, I did. Back to film. I did want to mention that if you're into interesting female-led superhero films, back in good old heydays of 1990s Hong Kong cinema, we had a film called The Heroic Trio, which featured not one, not two, but three kick-ass female leads, played by Maggie Cheung, Anita Hui, and Michelle Yeoh.
Oh, the three big female stars.
Yeah, among the biggest. There's a couple others worth mentioning who weren't in this, but it's sort of like a mini team superhero film, and featuring all sorts of superpowered Hong Kong wire work style crazy kung fu action.
It's also the first big budget Wonder Woman movie.
Well, yes. When translated into English, yes, one of them is referred to as Wonder Woman, which is distracting.
Yeah, it's quite distracting.
It should also be noted that it has a sequel called The Executioners, and what makes The Executioners so interesting is that the first film takes place in a regular world type scenario. The Executioners takes place in a post-apocalypse, so something happens between the two films, and in the second film it's like, well, the world's turned to crap, but we're still the three superheroes that you remember from the last film, and we're trying to get by in this new redefined planet.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely check those out. Not readily available to Western eyes, but I'm sure more explorative internet people might find. We don't want to recommend torrents, but what can I say? If the market fails to supply you the films you want to see, go looking.
Probably on YouTube.
It may well be,
If
actually.
If it wasn't yesterday, someone listening to this will probably post it by tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's how YouTube does seem to work.
Yeah, and if you find that window of opportunity before someone makes a copyright strike against it, and you might get to see the whole film.
If that's even possible. Who knows with some of these films.
But Michelle Yeoh, of course, is her own garden industry of kick-ass female action films. I am also particularly fond of one of her earliest ones called In the Line of Duty, which does a few action scenes that are direct rip-offs of the truck scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark, except it's Michelle Yeoh on an I think it's an ambulance, doing the stunts for real.
Is this similar to how Jackie Chan rips off Tango and Cash?
I guess it
goes both ways.
Yeah, it does go both ways. There's plenty of Hollywood films that shamelessly rip off scenes from Hong Kong films, and there are Hong Kong films that shamelessly rip off Hollywood films. So cross-pollination of ideas there. But Michelle Yeoh, back in her younger days, was all about doing her own stunts. And if you ever saw the Jackie Chan film Police Story 3 Super Cop, or as it was released here, just Super Cop. She is the secondary lead and does some truly insane stuff in that film, to the point where her character was such a breakout success. There is a Super Cop 2 starring just Michelle Yeoh, no Jackie Chan.
Isn't it the one where she does her own motorcycle stunts and bounced a motorcycle off a train and crashed?
Yes, that is in Police Story 3, and you can see the outtakes over the end credits of that, where she misses the jump.
Yeah.
And not good things happen, as in all of Jackie Chan films. There's plenty of people hurting themselves. Usually it's just Jackie, but, you know, when Michelle Yeoh was trying to match him stunt for stunt, she got injured too.
Well, it's good to remind everybody that they're listening to CGLS 1690, where today we're discussing American to Hong Kong ripoff movies. That's what we're all Our show is Cinema Smackdown, and we've segued from film to television to Hong Kong ripoffs.
Yeah, well, specifically female
right.
Kickass. And while I'm on Michelle Yeoh, I would I don't want to miss the opportunity to mention one of her very best. And no, it's not Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I don't know how Tess feels about this, but we were discussing before the show how we hold that film in contempt.
Disagree, but go on.
It is a Hong Kong style action film for slow Westerners. Everything in that film seems in slow motion to a real Hong Kong action film.
It's not shot like a Hong Kong.
Yeah, the wire work seems to be done on bungee cords rather than actual wires. Mm-hmm. It's a very bouncy, slow moving, and also starring two leads who are Cantonese speakers and not Mandarin speakers. And if you know the accents, it's quite embarrassing watching Chow Yun-fat and Michelle Yeoh speak Mandarin poorly. But no, I'm talking about Wing Chun, which is another Maggie Chung. Yeah, that is a very fun one. It's also an odd action film in that the villains aren't particularly villainous; they're just annoying.
Is Wing Chun another Yuen Wu-ping film?
I can't remember either. Actually,
Might be.
It might be, or he may have done the choreography. It's one or the other with him usually. That one is it's a much lighter action film in that there are no deadly stakes to it. It's just a matter of, I think the great victory moment in that is when Michelle Yeoh defeats the bad guy and gets him to call her auntie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a Yuen Wu-ping film.
Oh, okay, there you go. Okay, thank you.
There we go. All right, well, let's swing back around to, before we swing back around to North America, let's briefly mention one of the more interesting recent characters, which would be Lisbeth Salander.
Oh, yes, the girl with the dragon tattoo who kicked the hornet's nest on fire on the web, yeah.
No, I like kicked a hornet's nest into a spider's web. That's kind of a good mix.
But yeah, we have 5 different films about her at this point.
Yes, with 3 different leads.
Yes, so a little confused.
I've enjoyed all the films to some degree. Not so much the second 2 in the first trilogy, which I didn't have any interest in at all.
They're epilogues to the first one, really. At the end of the third one, you feel like, okay, the last 2 films felt like an extended epilogue, but now it seems like everything is set up to move forward with these characters, and then the author died.
It's worth mentioning for the construction of that film series. So you've got Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Girl Who Kicked a Hornet's Nest, and Girl Who Played with Fire. I can't remember what
yeah.
So here is how they made those movies. They cast them with 2 leads who were basically theatrical leads. They shot a theatrical feature, and rather than wait and see if the movie was a success, they immediately went into production on 2 TV movie follow-ups, which they shot incredibly quickly with a much more slapdash script. So they had all the material finished and then released the feature and then quickly put out the other 2. And the other 2 do feel like mediocre television movies. It's very strange. I've never seen something done in quite that fashion before. And the results are exactly what you would expect them to be. A pretty great first movie and then 2 blah follow-ups. So when they remade them in America, well, the first one at any rate, they did have a plan to remake them all, but that sort of fell short. I was saddened to hear that David Fincher got to make The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, And then he had a follow-up plan, and there were scripts written. Everybody was ready to go, but the first movie didn't quite make enough money to justify shooting. They were going to shoot 2 back-to-back sequels. They just, they wanted to commit fully or not at all, and it turned out to be not at all.
And yet, a decade later, they tried again.
Yes, not quite. Less than a decade.
Less than a decade? Okay, I don't know.
Definitely less than a decade.
Yeah, and now they've... Here's the thing, though. I really, really liked the first actress whose name totally escapes me.
Rooney Mara?
Nope.
Oh, the other one?
Oh, oh, God. We're going to grumble. You're the one in front of a computer.
And yet, I'm not typing. At any rate, I really enjoyed the first actress. I think her performance is phenomenal. She's gone on to have a kick-ass action movie career. She's done a pile of movies playing various tough people, hitmen, hitwomen that is, and bodyguards. And most of the films she's done she's quite good in all of them. So they recast her with Rooney Mara, who is...
Noomi Rapace.
There you go.
Yeah. At any rate, Rooney Mara's fine in that movie.
She's okay.
She's the weak part of the film compared to the how well made that movie is. I mean, David Fincher delivered a pretty immaculate, dark thriller. And, she's a very empowered character.
Just enough differences from the original that it's an interesting companion piece.
Absolutely. And the new film, which was...
Yeah, I have not seen the Claire Foy...
It's good.
New one. But I saw the trailer,
a masterpiece.
I was very excited.
Yeah,
It is a good movie.
It's a solid little thriller film to the point where we walked out of it and we both said the same thing. It's like, yeah, I'd watch 10 more of these.
Yeah. Well, they're fantastic counterpoints to James Bond movies.
Yeah.
They really feel like you could basically drop this character into any number of spy scenarios and tell a pretty great story about her.
Yeah, and unfortunately the author of the original stories continues to be dead.
And his wife continues not to make any money off his work while his greedy relatives have...
Yeah, the horrible legal entanglements are bad. There have been a couple of books, including the Spiderwebs one, since his death, that have been licensed out. But I understand the next one after that is particularly poor. So I don't expect to see an adaptation of that anytime soon. Well, and if they want to continue this series, I think they're going to have to start just writing original films.
As I understand it, Girl in the Spider's Web does not bear a lot of similarities to the novel.
Okay, well, there you go,
They did a lot of Hollywood screenwriting tricks to make that into a movie rather than try to adapt the story.
Yeah, and yet it does make a lot of references to the now shaky continuity of the entire series.
Right. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. It's not a solid North American, European brand.
Yeah, it doesn't quite stand on its own. It doesn't quite launch a new series. It doesn't quite continue the old series. Yeah. I'm not sure what it's... And yet, if you know who the characters are, it's like, oh, well, this is a good one of these.
Wait about 5 years, and they'll find another, say, Disney Channel actress who's grown up and needs to change her image to play the character. A new series of films.
I don't know. You can always dig up Britney Spears. I'm sure she'll get in shape and be ready to do that character.
I would believe her in the damaged department. I would look into her eyes and I would say, you have been through these things.
Well, we could fast forward to series 20 years and see where Elizabeth Salander has ended up and not in a happy place.
I would be perfectly fine with them going back to Noomi Rapace. That would be fine. Just go right back to her. She's doing great work in English language movies anyway. Why not just put her back in the role?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get the original Michael Enquist too readily. Another person involved in the series, sadly involved in a slight case of death.
It happens. Some people have...
Hey, fingers crossed for Daniel Craig next.
I like how you turned on him over the years.
Spare us any more of those James Bond train wrecks.
I think a train wreck is too interesting of a
death for James Bond at this point.
It's too interesting of a comparison for those movies.
Yeah, not after the
the
relentlessly beige Spectre.
Yeah, it's more like being suffocated with a pillow or something.
Like a very, very soft pillow.
Yeah, slowly.
I was a fan of Kick-Ass Woman. I was a fan back in 1990 of the French film Nikita.
Ooh,
yep.
Yes. Love it.
ridiculously renamed Femme Nikita.
In English, yeah. The English title is La Femme Nikita, yeah.
But that movie has a lot of charming, weird moments, and it is there is a North American shot-for-shot adaptation of it, which fails on so many levels,
yes.
and adds a few strange new scenes for no.
Was that Point of No Return with Bridget Fonda.
Yeah, that was an odd one. The movie stops working in the first 10 minutes when we see her origin story, which they tried to copy, which is just her in a doped up state, just sort of mumbling to herself and shooting a cop. Sort of half asleep shooting a cop.
But hey, if you like your version of La Femme Nikita with all the energy drained out of it and all the subtlety removed, then the American remake is your thing.
It's all for you. I'm asking this as a question because I literally haven't seen this movie in over 20 years. Does Jean Reno reprise his role in that movie?
No, it's Harvey Keitel, I think.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, no, that's good to hear. Although it's not like Jean Reno is above that kind of.
No, Jean Reno will appear in some crap if you pay him.
Exactly, but he's a lot of fun in some things. In some things, I am a fan of his to a degree. You know, obviously.
Oh yeah.
We all like The Professional. I was looking forward to the sequel to The Professional they were going to make starring Matilda, which was in the works forever. And then Natalie Portman finally just said, I'm never going to make this movie. So Luc Besson took the script he wrote for it and repurposed it as a movie called Columbiana.
Oh, that's what it was.
Which is really weird because when you watch it, there's nothing in it that tells you it could have been a sequel.
No, I would not have made that connection at all.
Structurally, there's no connectivity. Like, I can't even figure it out. Perhaps some of the choreography in the action scenes is what he moved over.
Yeah.
I just don't even...
It was a bit unfortunate. Instead, Natalie Portman went on to make some awful Star Wars films that crippled her career.
Hey, she's got a thriving mutant bear franchise now.
Ah, yes.
Isn't that what she's up to these days? Making her mutant bear attack movies? Isn't there going to be a bunch of sequels to that?
Well, there are book sequels to the original book, so we'll never know.
What was that movie called? Annihilation?
Annihilation, yes.
Annihilation, not... despite starring 4 pretty great female actresses, not a Kick-Ass genre movie.
0 Kick-Ass women in that movie, yeah.
Yeah, very beloved movie, though. If you look around and listen, a lot of people somehow enjoyed listening to the pseudoscience in that movie.
There's no accounting for taste, Michael.
I have to agree. And speaking of no accounting for taste, let's do another ad break. As soon as I can find the button. That's kind of funny.
How much longer do we have to try and get
15 minutes.
15, yeah. There's a lot on this list. It's just so many of them are garbage. Like I said, it's an embarrassment of riches. It's just...
Feel free to just...
Low quality riches.
Yeah.
Machine gun them out, you know?
Yeah.
To a degree.
Is that him banging away?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of irritating.
He's really loathsome.
Oh, I don't mind him.
Oh. I guess you haven't had to wait for him to talk straight into your spot recently.
Whatever. I've talked into people's time before.
It's pretty... He's out of his mind. I've had a chat with him about certain things, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he's a unique character, but he works hard.
Oh, I forgot. We're going out on the... we're slagging people on your show.
Oh, yeah. Well, our
right, we're
7
back.
subscribers old.
And we're back on CHL's 6090s Cinema Smackdown, where we're talking about kick-ass genre women today, because we all, well, most of us, saw Captain Marvel, didn't hate it, but didn't really think it fit into the pantheon of good movies about women who kick butt.
Can we briefly mention that
No.
Wonder Woman was like the worst
I'm
movie
glad
ever?
we agree. Shane will slightly disagree with us. He likes the planes.
Ugh,
Well,
hated it.
yeah, I'm a fan of the World War I setting, but Well, hey, if you hated that, then prepare yourself for Captain Marvel, because Wonder Woman, I think, is a superior film.
You're
we'll see.
wildly mistaken.
I'm seeing it tonight, so we'll see. But I will say that Wonder Woman is exactly what I hate when it comes to quote unquote badass female characters, where the character is she's a badass woman character. And then actually, the whole plot is about her relationship with this man, and everything revolves around the man, and that's all there is to it, really.
Captain Marvel does not suffer from 19 Zack Snyder slow motion sword fight, arrow fight scenes. It's already a better movie.
Captain Marvel is also not marred by a male love interest, although prepare to watch your favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe female hero be outshone by a cat.
I don't agree with that statement. The cat's fine. They're making way too much of a character who's barely...
Yeah, no, hey, a lot more could have been done with that cat, but I was still more enthralled by the cat.
Yeah, I'm into cats. I'm fine with it. I'll put it in a small subcategory if I can, and we'll see if you guys have anything to say about this subcategory of female characters in genre films. I'll make it adolescent or pre-adolescent badass female characters, since we were talking about Matilda from Leon, and
I think I know where you're going.
Where do you think I'm going?
Hannah.
I wasn't going Hannah, but that's a good one. That is a good one. Yeah.
Hannah is a good one.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
So that's I'll butcher her name, Saoirse Ronan.
Saoirse.
Yeah, she pronounces it wrong. And talks about how she pronounces her own name wrong.
She says it's Saoirse like inertia, so I never forget it.
I should try to remember that one. Mm-hmm. I would rather pronounce it properly.
Yeah, because you want to compare yourself as an actor to inertia.
But her film is quite good. And
but she's excellent.
Weirdly, it's a 2-hour movie that they are now adapting as a 10-hour television show. And I've seen the first hour, which adapts 10 minutes of the movie. It's just funny in that respect that they're just literally going to adapt it as a 10-hour TV show now. Although the lead actress in the new show is fine, but she's not. Saoirse Ronan. Yeah,
so Saoirse Ronan's great in it.
Let's hear your
I was going to actually mention... we mentioned Matilda. I was going to mention Maddie from True Grit, which we were mentioning before.
Yeah, but shouldn't we dismiss that because it spawned the career of... I can't remember her name
Haley Steinfeld?
She's really irritating.
Well, I mean...
We only have everything she's done since then, too.
You're not a big fan of her music career?
I am not. I am not a fan of her in the Pitch Perfect movies. I am not a fan of her... I think
she's cute. She's adorable.
She's had a bunch of solo movies that are all irritating, including a spy movie she's in with Sam Jackson. We all remember that fondly, don't we? See how we're jumping to reference how good that film is? I think it's called Barely Lethal. I think that's what that one's called. And it's quite poor.
I hate it already.
And by the way, though, I will say this. She is a ray of light as a voice in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
I had to double check the credits at the end to realize it was someone I so
I don't blame her for being in shit, in not being great in Pitch Perfect 2, because, it's not up to her to write that character.
She's just playing one of those desperate characters.
Terrible character. Yes. But in True Grit, her performance blew me away in that movie, and that was her sort of breakout role, her first role. I think she was like 12 or 13 or 14 in the film. And she was really, really excellent. The character is so well written and so well done. I love that movie, generally speaking.
But like the actress who played Scout in
To Kill a Mockingbird,
had that been her only role, I'd remember her super fondly.
Well, I think she still has time to bust out those chops again, and I'm not writing her off because she's been in a Pitch Perfect.
I know, I'm joking.
And then another one to throw on the pile of pre-adolescent or adolescent badass female characters would be Hit Girl, who's on your list, who I guess is the idea of the sort of badass combat child girl is maybe a bit played out at this point, but at the time when I first saw the movie, it was pretty exciting. It was pretty fun, and I feel like it's almost a satire of that that idea of the quote badass female character. And they just turn it up to 11 to the point where it's so unrealistic that it's kind of surreal and hilarious.
There's no reason they couldn't right now make a new Hit Girl trilogy. Why not?
Yeah. I would watch it.
It could, and frankly, it can be anyone.
And that's Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah, I mean, bring her back if she's so inclined, or go with someone who's 10 years old. I'd be fine with that too. Yeah. It's simple enough that you could just basically do anything with it. There is currently a Hit Girl comic book coming out monthly that is doing just that, just having that character basically wander the earth, and every arc of the story is in a different country, including a recent Canadian story, which was pretty good. And just have her do exactly that, go on an international assassination tour. It'd be kind of a fun series they could do with her.
Well, then there's also that other early adolescent kick-ass female assassin, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, the Witch Slayer.
She is the Witch Slayer, yeah.
She's pretty great.
I just heard a description of that film where it's like a girl arrives in a new town, kills, and then employs 3 helpers to help her kill again.
So Shane, tell us a few more of your picks.
Oh yeah, well, there's so many that among the good ones we should mention The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yep.
We're
Charlie Baltimore, played by Gina Davis.
Yep, big fan of that one.
She's a lot of fun in that movie. She's an unrelenting murder machine in that film, and every time she kills somebody, she says something pretty funny. So she out Schwarzenegger in most of the movie.
There's a lot of Drek as well, but some of the Drek is worth mentioning.
Okay.
I always like to mention Barbed Wire just because it's a Pamela Anderson crappy exploitation film.
It's a classic.
That once you get to the... It wasn't until I got to the very end of that film that I realized it was a remake of Casablanca.
That's what makes it classic.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my god, this piece of crap was a remake.
Actually, I'm just going to mention one that if you don't have written down, I'm astonished because it's such a favorite of yours that's so obscure, is Cherry 2000.
Oh, that's true.
Cherry
Yes,
2000.
I did not write that down. You're quite right. I am indeed a fan of that post-apocalypse. Let's go find a replacement chip for my sex bot, and I will hire Melanie Griffith to lead me into the wastelands to get it.
Remember that very brief period of time where her career was interesting?
Yeah. There was about 5 minutes in the 80s, and then it all went away.
Well, right. It's like a lot of things. And then she had a hit movie, and then she had no choice but to make Hollywood films. Everything after Working Girl is not interesting.
Right.
But everything up to then, I mean...
I also recommend one of her earliest films, Night Moves.
I was just going to bring that up, yeah. But she's a child in that movie, so...
Yeah, and uncomfortably naked for how old she is.
Yeah, she's got no business being irritated with her daughter's career, based on her early career. Her daughter being Dakota Johnson.
Right.
She and her husband have been kind of vocal about how upset they are that she did the 50 Shades series.
Well, does that have to do with nudity or more with quality?
I'm going to just go with nudity, but God knows. Melanie Griffith has never struck me as a person who understands what quality film is.
Says her mom, who was in Body Double.
There we go. Actually, that character was pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, kind of.
Holly Body. She's kind of good in that. I'm a sort of unapologetic Body Double fan.
Yeah, well,
it's a trash exploitation movie.
It is.
Revels in it.
Yes, exactly. It's a Brian De Palma film that knows it's trash. It doesn't pretend to be otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to your list real quick before we run.
Well, hey, we could always mention Uwe Boll's great work with Blood Rain. No. Okay.
Veto.
How about Kurt Wimmer with Ultraviolet?
Nope.
Oh my god, why are you bringing this up?
How about the entire Resident Evil series? Or the entire Underworld series? Or exactly.
Well, okay.
So disposable.
I have a big soft spot for the Underworld series. They are terrible movies.
They are
terrible movies, but I find them extremely entertaining, and I was a big fan of them when I was younger. Basically just a big fan of Kate Beckinsale's all-leather outfit.
And the greatest moment in that movie rips off that Oliver Grunier action. What was that one called again, where he shoots through the floor? Nemesis, yes. Mm-hmm. Great moment where it's like, yeah, shoot a hole through the floor and pass down to the next level. And it's like, oh my god, you are ripping off Nemesis, one of the schlockiest of the schlock.
That's just ripping off Snake Plissken in Escape from New York, who does it vertically rather than horizontally.
yeah, okay.
Horizontally rather than vertically, but it's the same moment.
Yeah, well, okay.
He
fine,
shoots
fine.
a circle of bullets in a wall and then pushes through it. It's pretty close.
Yeah, well, what happens in Nemesis, it's a really exciting moment where it goes from being a terrible, cheap action film to the most exciting action film you've ever seen for about 5 seconds, and it goes right back to being crap again.
Yep. That's not a recommendation.
But yeah, when Underworld is desperate enough to rip off that, it's a little cheap.
Yeah, agreed. So what else have we got?
Should mention also Haywire, the Soderbergh film.
No.
Briefly. No? Okay.
Terrible. It's a terrible movie.
Yeah, but
it's such a bad movie that they actually had to voice modulate the actress because her voice was so off, her performance was so terrible, that they had to deepen her voice with computers, which, that's not a good sign.
Then there's a phenomenon of someone asking Steven Spielberg, hey, could the next Indiana Jones be a woman? And it's like, dumbasses, we already have one of those. It's called Lara Croft.
Yeah.
We've had 3 Tomb Raider films so far. I'm sure they're going back to that well again soon.
I didn't hate the third one, but after a certain point in the movie, you realize nothing that's happening and it really matters. But it has...
It's fun schlock, though. It really
yeah.
is.
For
it
2
really
thirds,
gets
I was enjoying it, and then I realized I should have only been enjoying the first third. But it does have some beautiful photography, especially in the no-stakes first 40 minutes, where she's just kind of running around on docks and things. But those scenes are great.
No, it's well shot, it's fun.
But when it actually becomes a Tomb Raider movie, it's not great.
Yeah. We didn't mention our favorite film from last year, Atomic Blonde. We
is,
all love that, remember? Remember?
I do remember how Nemesis style, for 3 minutes, it's the best movie of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say even longer.
5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it's a long scene. I always say 8 minutes, but I haven't bothered to time it.
Well, I will throw into the ring one of my favorite recent films, Mad Max Fury Road, Imperator Furiosa. She's awesome. Love her.
Well, while we're on the Charlize Theron, we got to mention also Schlock, Aeon Flux. That's another one of those.
That's another one that's schlock that I also love.
The original animation is cool.
We're 100%
Well, of course, the original anime is...
Well, tune in next week when we go through the rest of this list. Like I said, it's an embarrassment of riches.
We gotta get to the Marvel ones.
Oh, God.
That's our ongoing Marvel stuff.
No, never again.
So, I'm Michael Brody. I've been joined today by Shane Simmons and
Tess McRae.
Occasional visitor Tess McRae, who has graced us with her presence this afternoon. It is true. I do have another 19 movies I can mention. But
we won't.
We'll save that.
Because we'll be talking about some other crap next week.
Oh, you never know. We don't have a theme locked. It could be this. There's quite a bit more to say on the subject. But until then, we will leave you in the capable hands of the Auto DJ, who loves you very, very much.
You're listening to CJLO 1619 in Montreal.
It's funny, there's always a point in the show where I'm like, oh wow, we're out of time. Just got
It happens every week.
No, I just mean we were in the rhythm and then it's gone.
Alright.
All yours.
In local news, Montreal students shut down 6 high schools Friday morning as part of a global
With machine guns.
movement against climate change. Students
Again?
formed human chains